Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray and I teach watercolor, and today we are doing our Patient Pal project from our Pals with Paws watercolor box. It's right here. And this is my little pal here. This is Birdie, short for Ladybird. She is, gosh, how old is she now?
A little over 1.
A little over 1, and she's also my studio mate, so she'll come into the office with me and hang out, and she's just such a good dog. So if you don't know, our entire theme for this box is cats and dogs. So we're really celebrating our little pet friends.
Our furry friends.
Our furry friends that we love to just love because they're so great. Okay? All right, I gotta go to work now.
Come on, Birdie.
Come on, Bird.
Come on.
Come on. Come on.
Good girl.
Good girl. Lay down. Lay down. Okay, so we are going to be doing this project in 6 steps. So our very first step is we are going to put in our sky. Our second step is we're going to put in our sky reflection in the water. Our third step is we are going to put in our water shadows / textures. Our fourth step is we're going to put in our sand. Our fifth step is we are going to put in our dog silhouette. And then our very last step is just any finishing details that we need to tighten this up. Okay?
Love it.
I am using 4 paint brushes, round 2, round 6, round 12, and 1-inch wash. I have my Let's Make Our watercolor paper taped down using my Holbein soft tape. I've transferred my outline, and then the paint colors I am using. I have rose red, Paynes gray, deep blue, honey brown, and bleed proof white just in case you need any highlights for your son or anything like that. I have all those colors set up on my Butcher Tray palette. I got clean water. I think we're good to go.
Good to go. I was saying that right as you said that.
Yeah, and we have Michael here working the cameras.
Hello, everybody.
We're married, so Birdie is our dog.
Our favorite child.
Yeah.
Don't tell our other children.
Don't tell our actual 3 children. Now, before we get into the oath and get into the project, I just wanted to give you a little background of why I chose this project, which is painting animals is really, really tough, especially if we're trying to paint something or an animal that's really important to us, because we kind of tend to get in our head a little bit more than usual. And also, it's just a difficult skill set. So I wanted to give you a project where you can easily customize this to be meaningful to you. Because it's mostly like a landscape with a silhouette, you can easily adjust this to where you're doing your landscape. And then if you just have a picture of any dog, you can easily turn that into a silhouette and place it here on this painting. So if you wanted to do this for a friend or do this for yourself, all you would need is a full body image of whatever pet you're trying to paint. And you would just trace the outline of that and then paint the whole thing black. Okay?
So sometimes during tutorials, I suggest a random thing that I hope someone paints.
Yes.
Are you ready? Because I've been thinking about this ever since I saw this.
Okay.
I hope someone pets their paint snake, all romantic, in place of that dog.
You hope they paint their pet snake?
Yeah, just like a silhouette of a snake.
In the shape of a heart?
Looking out into the sunset.
Oh, like it's on its...
Yeah.
Actually, I did ask what animal we should paint next on my Instagram, and quite a few people said snake. There were some snakes in there. So we've had a pet snake. They're great.
Rest in peace, Pearl.
Rest in peace. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's do our oath. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
Promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun. Oh, preemptive. Shoot. I'm bad at this.
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
Be nice to yourself. It's okay.
Can you just do one more thumbs up for me?
Yeah, ready?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, good job.
I was watching the monitor, which has a slight delay.
All right. Birdie's good. You're good. Let's do this. So I'm going to start with, actually, let me tell you what I'm going to do because we got to work fairly quickly. I'm going to use my 1-inch wash to apply just clean water across the entire sky. I am going to paint over my dog for most of this because the dog is going to be black, so it's fine. You can get color on it. After I put in my clean water, I'm going to use just honey brown lightened with water to get a lighter yellow around the sun, spread that color out, and then I start adding the other colors so we can get this kind of like sunset-y feel to our sky. But we want to work quickly because you want to put all the water in while the water is, put all the paint in while the water is evenly dispersed on the paper, so then it just kind of seamlessly blends. If you take too long to add the colors and your painting starts to dry as you're adding colors, you will start to get blooms. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
You know that Tina Fey movie called Baby Mama?
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, I read auras.
Yes.
What's mine? She's like, well, sunset-y.
Sunset-y. Congratulations. I'm also avoiding the sun when I'm applying this water because we're actually just going to let the white of the paper be the white of the sun. Okay, so I'm going to just do one more run to make sure that I have it nice and moist. And then immediately I'm going to take my round 12. I put some honey brown out on my palette. I'm going to add water to it. And then I'm just going to drop that in. And then start to move this color out. And then let's do one more layer of honey brown right around the sun. So see that strong color? That's kind of what we're going for here. And then you can kind of start to blend that out again. Okay, and then I'm going to keep the yellow going up into the sky and go down, but I'm not going to go down all the way along the bottom. The yellow, you can go all the way to the top. This one, I'm only going to go about halfway to the bottom. And then I'm going to mix honey brown with a little bit of red, my rose red, and that's going to give me this really pretty peachy color. And then that's what I'm going to put in along the sides. Now, the more yellow that you mix into the red, the more like peachy orange it's going to be. And if you want to use just like the red watered down, that's going to be more pink. And I'm still using my 12 and I'm just working pretty quickly here. And then I'm going to keep adding that color along the top. And you'll notice that as your painting starts to dry, colors might lighten or they might spread out differently. So if you need to do another layer really quick, go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to mix a tiny bit of my deep blue and my rose red together to get this kind of purple. And I'm just going to kind of swoop those in. So I'm just kind of swoop.
We've talked about this. It's not a true swoop unless you make the noise.
Swoop.
There it is.
And I'm going to do more of that peachy color along the top too. So the nice things about this is like we're just doing swoop clouds here. So it's nothing too detailed. It's really just dropping in color and letting it go. And then if you don't like it, you can just like blend it out and try again. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to my wash going up into my sky because I feel like it kind of got blended out. And then I feel like the top of my sky needs to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to grab more of that kind of peachy color and some more purple. Bring that into there.
Beautiful.
Okay, and then I need to move on to my bottom. So I have the peach color already in there. And then I'm going to mix to like a pink. So I'm going to grab just the rose red with water and apply that to my peach. And then I'm going to move to a purple. So I'm going to mix that deep blue in with the red, like so. And remember, you can paint directly over the dog. And then I'm going to use just deep blue. For the bottom here. So we kind of want the color transition. The bottom is kind of tricky because it's turning to like that misty blue purpley color. So we want it to go from like yellow to peach to pink to purple to blue, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Now the other thing is we want this to feel, we don't want the blue to be too bright, and deep blue can be really, really bright. So sometimes I'll add a little bit of that purple in there just to like tone it down a little bit. And I'm going to actually add a tiny, tiny bit of Paynes Gray to my blue, just to desaturate that color a little bit. And I'm going to start with that color along the very bottom. And then move that color up into my...
I love sunsets because they're one of the things that you can't really take a picture of. And so, like, you just got to enjoy it while you're looking at it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Pictures never do them justice.
They really don't. It's really funny, actually, because even with, like, there was not too long ago, I was trying to do so many, I was in a place where there were just beautiful, beautiful sunsets, and every sunset people would be out trying to take pictures, and every time they would like take a picture and then look at their photo and just go like, because it's just, you can't capture it, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like blending out. I put a little bit too much color near my yellow, so I'm just going to take my towel and kind of like lift. Okay, that feels pretty good. This is where it gets a little bit tricky because I want to keep like blending and adding, but my paper is starting to kind of dry a little bit. So I'm just going to do a little darker edge here along the very bottom. And then I think I'm just going to have to leave it alone.
That sounds good. You don't want to overwork it.
We can't overwork it. But I think that turned out nice. And please know, we mixed these colors, and like a color transition seems simple, but it's not. It's really not. So we are going to get very different end products. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No one's is going to be the same.
No one's is going to be the same. And instead of being mad at that, we're going to embrace that and be okay with it, because it's true for the sky. I mean, like, let me tell you, every time you look at the sky, it's not the same at all.
Right.
You know, so it's okay if yours is different. That's how we would see nature. Okay, so our very next step is we are essentially going to put the colors in the sky reflected in the water. So I'm essentially going to do a color transition where I'm going to start with blue, go to purple, go to pink. The very center is going to be yellow, and then it'll be more like blue purple on the outside. Okay, so we're trying to incorporate the colors that are happening in the sky into our water. So I'm going to take some deep blue. Let's actually start with yellow and transition out. So if you notice here on the outline, I have a circle inside of a funky area. That is our sun reflection, so that's going to stay white. And then the area around that is what is yellow, and then to pink, and then to like purpley blue. Okay? Now remember, we will be putting water textures on top of this, so don't be too hard on yourself if you get some bloom, some hard lines, or your transitions aren't perfect. We're essentially just trying to get our water to relate to our sky. I'm going to get some clean water here, and I have some honey brown. Add some water to it because it's just going to lighten it up into a brighter value. And working, if you want to switch to a smaller brush, you can. I'm just using the tip of my round 12. And I put in that yellow, and then I'm just going to use water to spread it out. And notice that I actually hit my paper towel when I go to spread out color, because if you don't, then you'll just have too much water on your brush. Okay, so now I put in that yellow, and then now I'm going to grab a little bit of that rose red, add some water to it, add a little bit of yellow to it. And I put that color in, and then I picked up more water, hit it off my paper towel so to grab any excess water. And so we're working in very light values here. And remember, you can go over your dog. I would rather you go over the silhouette than to have like a thin white line in between. Now I'm going to use more like a pinky purple, because before it's been more like that peach. And whenever you put a color that's just a little bit too dark in value, that's where I like to just grab clean water and use clean water to kind of spread that color out. And you want to be really careful when you're going to your horizon line, because we don't want to mess up that clean line, okay? I'm just going to keep grabbing this kind of more purpley. And I'm working in such light values, okay? We're using barely there colors. Okay? And then now I'm going to grab a little bit of that deep blue with a tiny, tiny bit of Paynes Gray to desaturate the blue. I'm just going to be so careful at my horizon line. I'm going ahead and overlapping onto the pink and the purple. And do the same thing on the right hand side.
I also think sunsets are funny because everywhere you go, they say, "Oh, we have the best sunsets here."
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And no one's ever wrong. Everyone
know.
does have the best sunsets everywhere.
I'm going to do one more layer of blue, but I kind of want to make sure that my water is just one click lighter in value than my sky. Because if we make our sky and our water, this wash, the same value, it's going to look flat. So I want to make sure that they're different values in whatever way, really, because we want to make sure that there's separation there. And I really don't want this to bleed, so I'm just barely touching it. Okay, I'm gonna call that good. Okay?
Love it.
And I actually, you know what? I said I'm gonna call it good, but I feel like I wanna do a little bit of more yellow into the peach. Okay.
Do you often overwork things to death, or do you catch yourself before that happens?
You know, honestly, and it stinks because this is really the only way that you guys see me, I overwork things way more on camera
Really?
than when I'm just by myself.
Huh.
Yeah. So when I'm just painting by myself, I rarely overwork things. When I'm painting on camera, I almost always overwork things. I think it's just because like I'm talking and I'm nervous and I'm trying to like give direction, and like I can't see my painting for what it is while I'm teaching. There's a level of separation there when I'm filming than when I'm by myself.
I totally thought it would have been opposite, you know?
Okay. That is step 1 and 2. Now we want to make sure that our painting is totally dry before we move on to the next step, which is doing our water textures on here. So I'm going to use my heated craft tool. And dry it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to step 3, and this is where we put in our water textures on here. Now, I don't want you to stress about this or go too crazy. Essentially, what we're trying to do is when water is smooth and there's no waves or movement to it, it's completely smooth and flat. There's no up and downs, right? So if we were to leave this as water, it would feel like there's no movement. So we need to give it a little bit a hint of there's water coming forward and towards us the way that water moves, right? And so whenever we try and paint water, essentially what you're painting is if we're looking at water on the side and the wave or a small wave is coming up, then it's now on a different level than the smooth surface. And there will be a darker value right here between the top of the new wave and then the actual surface level. So we're just trying to give hints of little medium and dark values there to show that they're on 2 slightly different planes. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Okay. So, and then how do I say this? The value that you use will indicate how extreme the wave is. Does that make sense? So the darker the value, the more intense the difference is between these 2 areas. The softer the value is, then they're going to be closer together. Okay? That's why on our painting, you can see here that this has a really dark edge right here because I'm trying to show that it's a taller lip than maybe something right here. And then, as true with any landscape that you're doing with atmospheric perspective, our wave lines get softer and decrease in value as they move their way out. And that's how we communicate space. Okay?
Got it.
So I'm going to take a little bit of Paynes gray and a little bit of my deep blue. And maybe let's grab a tiny, tiny bit of purple in there. What we're going for here is we're going to start with a medium value. And then I'm just going to kind of follow my outlines here. Now we have done a wash, so it's possible that they got a little bit lost. If that's the case, just kind of eyeball it. Remember, water moves. So like maybe your painting is like 10 seconds later than mine, you know what I mean? Because those water waves will be in different spots. So I don't want you to feel like you have to get it perfect. I'm using my round 2 and I'm picking up this and I'm just doing horizontal, a little bit rough brush strokes. Okay. Let's continue this over here. The other thing to remember is that water doesn't always move on a single line like this. The wave coming in is going to be more like this sometimes, and also will have like thicker areas than others sometimes. So that's why over here we have a little bit of a harder shadow because this lip is thicker on this side, okay? And I'm sharing all of this information with you because I'm hoping that as you guys are attempting your own paintings or things like that, those are things that I try and keep in mind as I'm painting. You know, think about the thickness of the water, think about the movement of it and the shape of it. Already, doesn't that feel like water?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's just something simple. And then here I have some like shadows from like rocks and things like that. So I'm going to put just that medium value in here.
I know I sound like a broken record, but this looks like Lake Tahoe also.
Does it?
Yeah. I see like little mountainy in the background. Maybe I'm making them up, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm like, there are no mountains in this background.
That's what I'm imagining.
But that's the amazing thing is like we kind of see what we want to see and we implement our own experiences or where we've been onto art, which is not bad. I actually think that's great.
Are we gonna have to move to Lake Tahoe? Is that
I feel like that's the
that's the
sign.
theme?
Y'all have to buy a lot more art boxes for us to afford to move to Lake
The
Tahoe.
Missouri Lake Tahoe move would be.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep going here. And now I'm thinking about how thin these are, just using a rough brush stroke. And I'm keeping them mostly horizontal. What you have to be careful of is you are going to want to create the same length of line over and over. Your brain's just going to do that. So mess it up on purpose. Be like, no, no, no. You're a really long one. Okay? And then maybe you're a short one. You have to have that variation in there. And don't forget the right-hand side too.
Do you have a favorite dog you've ever had?
I've ever had?
Yeah. Samson?
Well, I don't want to be disrespectful to...
Birdie?
No.
Oh.
Birdie is my favorite.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I had dogs growing up, and I like dogs and I like cats. Birdie is probably my favorite animal that we've had.
She's a good mix of a dog and a cat.
She really is, and
It's
that's
fun.
why I love her. She has an indifference about her that I think is fabulous, and I really respect it. Okay, so I put in my medium values, and then as you can see, if you look at the values of our water textures, there are some where we have dark values, like the top of this lip of this wave, a little hint right here, and then the rocks. So I'm going to go ahead and put those in. So just using this kind of darker value, I'm going to grab a bit more blue. Just right on the top. I'm going to put that in. And then if you didn't leave it thick enough that you're essentially covering your medium value, then you can just take water and just kind of like blend it out. The important thing is that we have two values there. We want a medium and we want a dark. That is really what's going to give this its shape. Yeah. And then let's do a little rock here.
I keep seeing Birdie's little foot kick. I think she's having a puppy dream down there.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
She's so cute.
She's just asleep on your side. And people at home, Birdie is just asleep on the floor right there.
Okay. And then let's put in a bit of a darker value here.
It's such a calming color palette, you know?
Yeah. That's what I was hoping for. Not only did I want to show you how like you can do pet paintings without having to be super skilled at painting animals, but also I was thinking about trying to decide if I should go there. I was also thinking about pals that we've had to say goodbye to, and I don't know, maybe they're waiting for us.
Yeah.
Waiting for us somewhere so we can see them again. And I wanted that to feel calm and patient, and like this dog is just here, ever loyal, waiting for you.
That is beautiful, Sarah.
Thank you. We had to say goodbye to one of our dogs. Gosh, almost 2 years ago?
Yeah, about 6 months before we got Birdie.
Oof, that was really, really hard.
It was like right by Christmas, too.
Mm-hmm.
Harvey.
Harvey. This
Harvey
is in
Danger.
memory of Harvey Birdman Danger.
Except Harvey was tiny.
He was tiny. He's very small. Okay.
That guy he lived a good life, though. You know what
I mean, he was so loved. And actually, and I'm just going to share this with you, we were just so heartbroken when we had to put Harvey down, and it was really so sad. And Michael was talking to his grandma, and his grandparents have had really amazing dogs, like, and they're such a part of their life. And he was just like, Grandma, what did you say? You were just like, how do we like I can't imagine loving another dog the way that I've loved Birdie. Like, what do you do? I'm so heartbroken. And how do you even think about getting another animal, you know? And she said that the greatest gift you can do is actually find another animal to love them. You know, like so many animals need love. And just, I just thought that was a really wonderful way to look at it. Is it's just like the best thing to do is continue to choose to give your love to a pal, to a little friend. So I thought I would share that because that was actually really helpful, because we were just like, we can't get another dog. Like, it's just so heartbreaking and all of that kind of thing. But the reality is, like, there's only room for love. Love only grows. And, like, I don't know. She's such a part of our family now. She's so wonderful.
Mhm.
And I'm just really grateful for that. Okay. We added our water textures. Now all of a sudden it looks like water moving in, which is fabulous because we really just did like 10 brush strokes in a medium and dark value. And now what we are going to do is we are going to do our sand. Now, I want to point out a couple of things for our sand. The biggest is that there is a value change at the top right here as it meets the water. It is a medium value, and then the bottom here is a dark value. So we do want to have a slight value change. We need to let the light in on that sand or else it will fall completely flat. So I'm going to essentially mix all of my colors together. I have honey brown, I have red, I have blue, I have Paynes gray. And we're going to be doing this in multiple layers. But I want to go for more like a desaturated gray sand brown color. Okay, so using my 12, I'm going to just roughly put in the sand. And again, you can overlap your dog or you cannot, but just don't leave a white mark around your dog because we want it to be grounded. We don't want it to be floating. And then grab more paint and go all the way to the bottom here. Now I'm being really loose because this is sand. I'm going to do one more swoop along the top to kind of smooth out any brush strokes. Okay, and now I'm going to grab more Paynes gray because I need the bottom to be darker. So using this Paynes gray, I'm going to start from the bottom, work my way up. Big, long horizontal strokes. And then when I get into the top, I don't want it to smooth, like blend smooth. I'm going to do a few dry brush here and there just to give it some texture. Okay, and then let's do one more. Go along the bottom. And then I noticed how strong this Paynes gray was that I was adding. And I felt like if I just continued blending, then it would go all the way up here. So I'm actually using my paper towel to get rid of any excess paint. And then I'm just going to use the color that I've already laid down. And then that way I can kind of control that blend. And it won't get away from me. I won't lose my pretty light brown on the top here. Okay? So now all of a sudden that sand has depth to it. And then we can take our 2 and think about sand. Think about how there's a little rock here. I mean, and it's still wet, so these things are just going to kind of bleed out, but that's okay because I'm just giving like texture hints. It's not anything too precise. And if you want to do a couple more strokes, I'm going to move to my 6 actually and actually do just a slight shadow underneath my dog. Kind of ground him a little bit like that.
I kind of feel the same about, you were just talking about, giving your love to another dog. I feel the same about when you have more children, because when you have a child and you think, how could I ever possibly love anything this much? And you don't. You never do, but you love it different. You know what I mean? Your
Mm-hmm.
next child, like we've talked about this, but love is not a finite pool.
Yeah.
You don't take away from other people you love in order to give more love.
I
It just
know.
springs, you know?
And then I think the wonderful thing too about like, I mean, we're talking about such big concepts here, so sorry if you weren't expecting to have such deep conversations during this pet painting tutorial. But I think the fabulous thing is like, I know that when I'm harboring resentment or whatever, it's heavy. It's a weight and you can feel it. But love isn't like that. Love isn't heavy and like that. I think a healthy love is light. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so, I don't know. I think that's cool too. Okay, so we're on our very last step here. We're doing our dog silhouette. So I'm going to use my 12 or my 6, whatever you feel comfortable using. And I want to mix a very, very dark value. If you want to use straight Paynes gray, you can. But I always like to add a little bit of color to my darks. It just gives it life and I don't know. I just like it. So I'm going to add some blues and browns and purples till I feel pretty good. But honestly, it's so dark that you're not going to see it much. I guess the reason why I do this is because if there were to, like, if I were to have a lighter value stroke in there somewhere, I don't want it to just be gray. I would want it to be reading like blue or something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're doing great, you guys. We're almost done.
That water looks so great.
Thank you. I'm actually really happy with my sand also.
Yeah.
I feel like that little light edge is showing like that sun is reflecting right on that sand edge. Okay.
Before you painted that black, it did look like a spirit dog.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That would actually be pretty cool.
Just like a glowy white one.
Yeah. So I put that color down and then I added some water to kind of spread it out to help it. Sometimes when it comes to these liquid watercolors, our brain forgets to add water to them. But if you don't add water to them, then they can kind of have fuzzy edges. And I'm not talking too much because I'm just focusing on getting a nice clean edge. Okay. And silhouettes are kind of funny. I don't want you to feel like if you do make this your own and do your own type of silhouette on here, like, I just want to let you know that all silhouettes are super funky. They're like weird shapes. So don't get hard on yourself if you like turn a picture or your dog into a silhouette and then you're like, what the?
Or your snake.
Or your snake. That's right. Okay, I really lost my outline here, so I'm doing the best I can to eyeball it. I think I need to make that darker. Do the ear.
There's a baby bird right outside our studio window. I hear it chirping for food. You hear it?
Yes. Okay, let's smooth this. Oh, yes, I can totally hear it. It's like, feed me. I'm hungry.
Me too, little buddy. There's this other interesting thing I read a while ago about how a dog perceives you because, a dog lives 10, 15 years if you're lucky, and you barely age in that time. And so, like, I don't know how to describe it. You're essentially like, you're the whole life of this little creature, and you're like this immortal thing to
Yeah,
them. You just,
yeah,
like,
yeah. Okay, we're done.
beautiful.
That's it. Depending on how dark your wash is, if you come back to it after it totally dries and you need to do another layer of the really dark color silhouette, go ahead and do so. Please know that you have complete freedom and control when it comes to this painting. So if you're just like, I actually would love to try this in different colors, or I really do want to paint this for an area that's meaningful to me, it's easily adjustable. I mean, just remember that whatever's going on, all the colors that are happening in the sky, that would also happen in the water. That's it. That's the only thing you need to remember. So everything else the technique would be the same. I hope that you guys had fun with this. I hope you can see how much you can customize this. And that's it. Thank you so much for painting with me. I really appreciate it. Michael, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.